How's it going, guys? Hope everybody's doing well. In today's video, I just want to give my thoughts and a prediction for the big fight taking place tonight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. For me, the biggest factor in this fight is obviously the weight issue for Chris Eubank. Obviously, he missed weight yesterday by 0.5 of a pound, so obviously he tried to make weight. I think he thought he did make weight. I know there were some issues with the scale, but obviously tried to make weight. He didn't come in 5 pounds over, so he definitely attempted to make weight. We knew it wasn't going to be easy for him, but anyways, he's been fined, and today he has successfully made weight for the rehydration clause, and now he has 12 hours or whatever since making weight to rehydrate before the fight takes place tonight. So like I say, I think this is the biggest factor in the fight. But Eubank, obviously, in my opinion, the more tested, the more experienced of the two guys. Pretty fast for a middleweight to super middleweight, but you would expect Conor Benn, being the smaller man, to have a little bit more speed coming up in weight. He weighed in at 156 pounds. He looked quite good, looked pretty strong on the scales, but like I said, this is his first real test. He hasn't really fought anybody up until this point. So we're going to see how he handles Eubank's experience and power advantage over the guys that Benn's fought in the past. I mean, because Benn, in my opinion, has been quite carefully managed. Not to say Eubank hasn't been, but he's obviously been a lot more tried and tested. He's fought some big names up at super middleweight, at middleweight. He's been in there with some solid punches like Groves. But however, he wasn't weight trained for those fights. And then we did see his chin kind of get cracked a little bit against Liam Smith. However, he came back and defeated Liam Smith in the rematch. So there is some questions around Eubank's chin now that, he's had to make this weight for the fight. Obviously, that's why his father's so concerned about it, due to him being quite dehydrated. However, I still think Eubank, in my opinion, is probably going to win this fight. I don't think Conor Benn's that big of a puncher. At welterweight, he seemed to have a little bit of pop, but even then, I didn't think he was a major puncher. He was sort of just going in there against powder puffs. We've seen him now at 154 in his last two fights, and he didn't look to really have any power there. So now, up at middleweight, I don't really expect his power to carry up there either. However, he will have probably, more energy than Eubank, who's had to really drain himself to make weight. So obviously Conor Benn maybe will have the advantage in energy, and maybe work rate as well. But Eubank's got the more experience on his side, so he'll know how to sort of pace himself and navigate his way through the fight and through the rounds. I think Eubank, obviously, also with the height and reach advantage, I think his jab might give Conor Benn a bit of trouble, because over the past few years, you have seen, I think, a bit of improvement in Eubank's, sort of jab and outside game, whereas back in the early days, I would say he was more, and he probably still is, more of an inside fighter than an outside fighter. But even in this fight, like I say, from the outside, I do expect his jab and footwork to probably give Conor Benn a little bit of trouble. Conor Benn's going to be looking to try and use his head movement and pressure and try and get on the inside of Chris Eubank and try and land some big shots. However, I think when he gets on the inside, he's going to be quite surprised that I think Eubank is probably the superior inside fighter to him as well. He's quite good at putting a shoulder up on you and sort of using almost like a Philly shell, putting a shoulder up on you and rolling and ripping uppercuts on the inside. And he has quite fast hands on the inside, especially for, like I say, a middleweight or a super middleweight. So if Benn gets on the inside, I'd like to see Eubank start ripping his uppercuts and on the inside and sort of busting Benn up that way. But like I say, it's going to be an entertaining fight because it all depends on how well Eubank can take a shot, in my opinion, after being weight trained like this. But like I say, I'm not convinced of Benn's power either, so I do probably think Eubank will be able to take Benn's power in this fight. and probably stop Conor Benn in the second half of the fight, or win a points decision. But I would probably lean towards Eubank getting a second half of the fight type stoppage, using his jab to sort of manage Conor Benn on the outside, and then once Conor Benn sort of manages to try and get through or past the jab, Eubank kind of using the jab as a blinder to then land those vicious uppercuts as Benn comes inside. So that's how I sort of see the fight playing out. It will be an entertaining fight. And like I say, it probably all comes down to whether Eubank is that badly weight drained. But like I say, I still think he'll be able to take Benn's power and probably get a second half of the fight stoppage. That's my thoughts and opinions on the fight taking place tonight. Let me know what your guys' thoughts and opinions are in the comment section below. Thanks for listening. Talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.